afternoon and welcome to the Senior Hour, which is sponsored by Providence Holy Cross Medical Center, IMAC Med Spa, and Comfort Keepers in Home Care. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host,
Dr. Thomas Polucki.
on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220 KHTS. This is a show for, about, and by seniors, giving information to enhance one's quality of life. And speaking of quality of life and who helps us run our money and take care of us through the IRS, we have Mark Guirguis and Amy Gibbs of Guirguis and Gibbs, local CPAs. It's good to have you.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
No, it's good afternoon.
It is afternoon.
Yes.
We work so hard sometimes we lose track. So it always
We don't know what time
happens.
it is.
That's very true. I think that happens to all of us. We lose track of all kinds of things, especially as you get older. Not old,
Yeah, we don't talk about that anymore.
older.
Yeah.
So, Mark and Amy, Guirguis and Gibbs CPAs.
And Lacey.
And Lacey, we have the
Oh.
Guirguis and Gibbs CPA office manager in the house. Lacey, for those of you who are not tuning in on Facebook, we got an amazing little Pomeranian here who absolutely runs the place wherever she goes.
Office manager.
She's the office manager.
Sweet. So, who should I ask first? Ladies first. So, Amy, why accounting? Why did you become a CPA? Why is it? Why is this your life's mission? Why is this your passion?
Most people don't believe my answer, but it started back in elementary school. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, and I loved math. I just excelled and loved it and loved problem solving. Moved to California in '74 and continued on with that journey. Came out to Santa Clarita in 1977.
So that makes you a native. I mean,
Unfortunately, yes, but the roots are the roots.
okay.
And-
I'm from Jersey, so
68.
yeah. So
so
I
you
get
can
it.
relate.
Yeah.
But I just loved math. I was always in high-end math classes. I loved algebra, all the weird stuff. And then when I hit 16 or 15, I should say, I started to work for a clothing store out here. If any of you remember Miller's Outpost,
Oh, yes.
it was in Granary Square. And I had the fortune of doing all the manager's paperwork, counting the safe, I love paperwork. Later on in high school, I took my first accounting class and fell in love. And I just, very fortunate, always knew the direction I wanted to go.
Yeah, that is great. I mean, I similar. You know when you know.
You have to love what you do or it's a job. And that's when you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to go to work. I'm fortunate. Every day I'm like, oh, I'm going to work. And
There you
what's
go.
my challenge today?
I love it. So, Mark, what is unique about accounting for seniors?
Well, the unique thing is, well, I want to take a step back.
Okay.
Right now, we have about 75,000 pages in the IRS tax code. It doesn't all apply to seniors,
Hey.
but there's
Can you believe that?
75,000?
And growing.
75,000.
and growing.
Yeah.
And when I say growing is they don't wait to put something in legislation and type it up. There are people, when they're trying to pass bills, they're
Right.
writing in the margins.
Right.
Add this, add that. It doesn't, like I said, apply all to seniors.
Sure.
There's a good chunk that applies to certain things, covering from Social Security to Medicare, understanding medical deductions, how certain tax implications apply to seniors versus everybody else. So-
Supplies, medical supplies, something simple like medical mileage. Not everybody knows about that.
Really? Whew.
So,
There's a lot to learn.
My question, the reason I asked, why is it unique to seniors, is you're dealing more with an estate than you are with, in my case, I run 3 different businesses. I am a marriage. I am an individual. I am my business. I get taxed like 8 different ways, and I'm not exaggerating. So I'm always looking for the legal way to pay as little taxes as possible, but it's a completely different game for seniors. I would have a completely different need for your services than someone who's retired would.
You just brought to mind there's two situations with seniors. Either they're like yourself and they have estate planning to do, and not everybody's versed on estate planning, or you have elder abuse when it comes to taxes and money.
Aye, aye, aye.
And that's something we take seriously.
Yeah, so I unfortunately, I really, really want to delve into that a little bit with you because
That could be an all-day conversation.
I know, and it's so disturbing and unfortunately so relevant. You know, as soon as people start getting to a certain age, the vultures start circling.
Well, the problem is people don't want to think about that when you're young.
Right.
That's so long, it's so far ahead in the future, I don't want to think about it. But ideally, you have to start planting the seed with your clients when they hit middle age.
Right.
Because this is going to end up happening to all of us, and proper planning is the key to absolutely everything.
Right. So
I was very fortunate because I did the planning. And
So
my
you know the
kids helped.
benefits.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Everything is all together, ready to go. And, if anything happens to me, where everything goes with my kids. And
It's a matter of your legacy. It's also, I met a client years ago. She's the mother of one of my other long-term clients, and she was living in an apartment she couldn't afford. There was no planning that was ever done. She had her deceased husband's life insurance proceeds and never did anything smart with it. Instead, she spent most of it, and she was down to less than $150,000 for the rest of her life. And that was a challenge for me. I had to make sure that she was okay moving forward and that she could afford, wherever she lived. And that was a lot of planning.
yeah.
It should have started probably 10 years sooner.
Right.
But if you're out there and you haven't started a plan, it's not too late, but you need to get a plan.
Yeah.
yeah, I was very fortunate. My husband always said to me, if anything happens to me, I want to make sure you're taken care of. And he made investments like you wouldn't believe. And he got the house paid for. And I mean, I'm set for the rest of my life. I don't have to
that's
worry.
brilliant, and kudos to Russ for
I
taking
know.
care of you.
He
However,
did.
I know for a fact, just me personally living here in Los Angeles County at this day and age, it is a real struggle for me to put anything aside for the future. And I'm sure I am not unique in that situation.
You are not.
It doesn't matter how much money comes in every month, it finds a way out.
It sure does.
And unless you're really, really careful about things, you are living from, essentially, it's a little bit different when you're a private business owner, but it's essentially paycheck to paycheck.
So you know why you need to come talk to us?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to teach you how to layer your money
Yeah.
and what you're going to touch first, second, third,
Yeah.
and how to push that out into the future.
Yeah.
It's extremely important. And some seniors especially, they just don't know what to ask. You don't know what you don't know. So I highly recommend, whether it's us or another firm, seniors reach out and get educated and have somebody back you and teach you how to do this so that you'll never run out of money, hopefully.
Well, I'll still have a lot to give to both my kids.
That's a good thing, but you'd be
And-
surprised. There's estate taxes that you have to worry about.
Oh, yeah.
There's all kinds of things, and sometimes it's not as complicated as that. Sometimes it's more simplified, but there still needs to be a game plan, and most people do not have one.
Yeah. Okay. Quick shop talk. Let's say someone has a set amount that they are getting paid either from an annuity or from some kind of settlement, or it's just the way they've structured their retirement, right? And let's say circumstances change without getting into, there's so many variables involved here. But what happens if all of a sudden that strategy has to shift. Or in the state of California, what kind of penalties are we looking at? I mean, can it easily be transferred? Can it easily be um, borrowed against? These kind of implications. I mean, I know that's like, I know we didn't talk about this in advance. It's too
very
much.
specific
Too
to
many
what
details.
the client
Sure.
has
Yeah.
and what they're invested in or where their money's placed.
Right.
And it depends on if there are loan provisions or if they own a house, are they renting, do they own a house, do they have rental property? There's so many factors. It's really on an individual basis that you sit down, you analyze it and create a plan.
Yeah.
There's not a general
Yeah, I
answer
kind of
for
thought,
most.
as I was even asking the question, I knew that had
Are
to
you
be the
single?
answer.
Are you married?
Yeah.
Well, it's good to have a financial advisor.
Absolutely.
Mark.
It's
It really
important.
is.
I do want to stress one thing, especially we're in the social media age, and it's something that we see time and time again. It doesn't matter what age you are, everybody has some sort of connection to social media, and we get a lot of questions from even our senior clients that say, well, I heard that this deduction's no longer allowed. I heard this or I heard that.
Right.
My friend told
And
me.
my
Yeah.
friend told me because they
Yeah.
read it on social media,
Right.
Facebook, whatever it is, or they're part of this group. And we always go back to this. We always say, well, we understand that you heard it here,
Right.
but this is what is actually happening.
Yeah.
This is how it applies to you.
Right.
Because a lot of these blanket statements, it's
Yeah.
like playing telephone. You ever played telephone when you were a
Yeah,
kid?
Exactly.
So the person on one end who started the message, by the time it gets to the person at the end, the message is completely altered.
Exactly.
We don't want that happening, especially when it comes to making financial decisions for the rest of your life. And we always want to make sure that is going to be the best that it can be.
Right.
So always talk to somebody who is a professional, who's in the field, who can get you the right answers.
Yeah, I love that because I call it Dr. Facebook. In my
Right.
in my field, it's always the patients come in and they're like, "Well, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that?" And I know it's because they're seeing all these fad gimmicks out there that are, I call it BS, bad science, that are highly marketable and they have a good hook, they have good marketing, and before you know it, all the money's gone and they still have the problem. And I'm sure you see the same thing in accounting.
All the time.
And it's so frustrating. There is no one size fits all, right? So I love that you take the same approach in accounting. I mean, you've got to deal with that individual and how they've led their life up into the point when they walk through your door is really what you have to work with.
Exactly. And it's not just doing that. We take it a step further. In our office, we do homework. And it doesn't sound as bad as it is, because I know most people are out there just saying, well, wait, I already finished school. I'm done with that for years. Why do I need to do homework? But this is an education really on your life and your finances and seeing how things go. And one of our favorite things to do, especially with new clients, is, all right, we look at your last year's tax return. We break things down, because a big complaint we get from people is no one teaches them. No one teaches them why they owe tax year after year.
Right.
Nobody teaches them about, certain penalties or why things are not deductible. And we have to break it down, because navigating, like I said, 75,000 pages of IRS tax code, and then figuring out what applies to you, what doesn't apply to you, and why is it that you had to pay for a certain year, why you got a refund. There's so many things. And then to tackle, to add on top of it, you have the IRS that does one thing, and the state of California in many instances goes, oh, that's nice, but we're going to do it this way.
Right.
So you have two separate tax returns literally for every person. So understanding the various nuances, it becomes, almost strategic. And that's why we talk to clients. We like to empower, we like to educate. And taking the time to do this makes people feel better, and they open their eyes and they say, well, how come nobody ever taught this before?
Right.
It's because nobody wanted to take initial, investment and show you what it is that you're experiencing year after year and how we can correct it if we need to.
And that's important, Mark, because even with seniors or other people that say, well, my friend told me they wrote this off or they wrote that, in the medical field, a lot of times somebody will come in and say, well, I wrote off infertility drugs, or I wrote off, something else, you should be able to do it. But sometimes when we look at the tax law, you have to have a prescription for it
Right.
to be deductible, or it has to be from a cause of something.
Right.
So it's very difficult for us when people come in and say, well, my friend told me to open up this type of entity, or my friend told me they wrote this deduction off. There's always that gray area that we have to look into, not only to protect the client, but we're signing the tax returns.
That's right.
For sure.
That's right.
So yeah,
Makes a big difference.
I've asked my accountant in the past, well, I know some of my colleagues are doing things, and he was like, that's their problem,
Exactly.
He was like, I am not about to put you in that kind of a position. So, it's a challenge here in California, and that's all I'm going to say about that. This is, a state that likes to take your money away from you, so you have to be prepared.
And honestly, they're taking money away from people that earn money, and not the rich and not the poor. But you can only tap in so much.
I know. It's crazy, but that's why we need your help. We need your help, because I do believe that, unfortunately, at this time, the people who are hurting the most are the one who are trying the hardest to do the right thing.
That's right.
Yes.
And everybody else is taking advantage of that ever decreasing group of people. And at some point, it's just going to pass a certain point that small group can no longer hold everybody else.
Think of it like driving on the freeway. You have too many cars, eventually you're just a parking lot.
Yeah.
That's what's happening financially.
Yeah, and I don't, I'm apolitical. I do my best. I have my own beliefs, but nobody should ever know them. I'm apolitical. I just want to see something that is logical, something that makes sense, something that is sustainable, something that can make California is as big as some countries, right? As far as the gross, not national, but the gross product of California is as big as most of the European countries.
Well, at one point, California was essentially its own economy. It could have been ranked about fourth in terms of gross domestic product, what we put out there. Now, especially since COVID, what you've seen is the taxpayer base shrink. And I think we have a net loss of approximately 300,000 taxpayers right now. So the base is constantly shrinking and shrinking. And if the tax base goes down, the GDP is going down.
Yeah.
And eventually it goes back to the point we were just saying, is how much can you squeeze out of people who are working so hard? And the reality is, the moment that government in general, take it for what it is, gets involved with your money, you're going to continuously see less and less of it.
Yeah.
And that's just a fact. It's been a fact throughout history.
Well, that's why we got you guys.
Definitely. And
Yeah.
Lacey.
Can I tell you why you
And
want to come
Lacey.
to our office? Can I brag for a
please,
second?
Yeah.
Our office is a little bit different than most. We're not stuffy. You can tell by the hair, right? We have a great atmosphere in there. New clients come in and their shoulders are up and they're all
Tense.
hyperventilating
Yes.
because they received a tax notice or garnishment, and they come in and we talk to them. They play with our dogs. They have either a favorite soda, coffee, and by the time it's all said and done, they're like, wow, this was the best thing I ever did. I promise you.
I love that.
We have a unique atmosphere.
Yeah, I love it. So Guirguis and Gibbs,
Correct.
CPA. Contact information, please, quickly.
661-209-3287.
I love it. So your first time here. I hope it's not your last time here. We've got a lot to cover.
Yeah, where are you located, though?
We are across the street from Valencia High School in Valencia, California.
Perfect.
But we do have clients all over the U.S.
There you go. Guirguis and Gibbs, CPA. You're listening to the Senior Hour, KHTS 98.1 AM 1220, your hometown station.com.
Back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Thomas Polucki, on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220, KHTS. And our guest now is the one and only Adam Lowery from Focus Physical Therapy.
Hi there, how
you
are you?
doing?
I'm good, how are you guys?
No see?
Long time no see. How are you?
Doing good. Doing
All right, Adam. So, obviously, we're going to touch base on your physical therapy practice.
Yes.
I know you like to promote the other people in your office because you're too busy. But I do want to touch base on why you are so busy
Yeah.
and how that is a good idea for seniors to take advantage of your services. As much as we can cover in the next 20 minutes or so, I know that's asking a lot.
Yeah.
But we're cut from the same cloth.
Absolutely.
When it comes to senior care, this is especially important to focus on function.
Absolutely.
So much of senior care, as Barb can attest to, revolves around never-ending pain management, just trading one symptom for another. Yes, you've seen that, yes?
Yeah.
And Adam and I come from this whole thing from a different place. And instead of me just talking all the time, I'd like you to say what that looks like in your practice.
Well, I think what I set out to do, actually almost 4 years ago, is when I opened Focus, is focused on patient care. That's why I picked the name. And I've been a PT for 23 years now. I love to help people, and especially seniors, helping them get back to what it is they want to do. You're in your quote unquote golden years, and I hate to think how many times I hear from seniors that like, all I do is go to doctor's appointments for pain and different symptoms and different things, and so, those are supposed to be the best time of your life, where you're getting to see stuff and explore stuff and, spoil your grandchildren and, whatever you want it is that you do. And so when we opened Focus, the idea was to really focus on the patient and help them, get back to function. And so we, that's really how we set out. So if you go to a lot of physical therapy clinics, and again, I don't want to badmouth PT clinics, but a lot of them have gotten into the kind of mill mentality, if you will, where you're not even seeing the physical therapist except for the initial evaluation, and then you're being treated by an aide who is somebody who has a high school education, which is great, but not an education to treat physical ailments correctly. And so, that's one of the differentiators of Focus, is that you see the physical therapist every single time.
Sure.
They are running the care. We do have aide/front desk that help you maybe get onto a bike to get started, to get warmed up, and they may take you off a machine at the end, but your entire hour you're with the therapist. And that's what differentiates, and that's what physical therapy is supposed to be, because it's a constant assessment. When a senior or anyone comes in and talks to us to let us know, like, hey, I'm having trouble getting up out of a chair, or my knee hurts when I go for a walk, or my shoulder hurts when I reach into the cupboard. Those are the things that we have to delve into and figure out what's the underlying cause, what's the problem with that. And somebody who has a high school education is not educated to do that.
Right.
Yet that's kind of what a lot of PT has become, because...
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's not just PT. This is everything. This is everything. Where I am a functional medicine practitioner, okay? And some people don't even know what that is, but what I would like to point out, that it is never a protocol. It is never a pre-packaged list of supplements or list of, this tear-off sheet that is, well, you need 8 hours of sleep, and you need a gallon of water, and you need to stay away from wheat and dairy and sugar. I'm like, you didn't need to go pay someone $3,500 to get this tear-off sheet that I include in any piece of information that I put out for free.
Right. Yeah.
And yet that's what so much of it is. You see it on Dr. Facebook all the time. Learn my protocol for this condition. I'm like, wait a second. You just totally eliminated the person, the function, whatever is special or unique about them, out of the equation. And that's not functional medicine. That's not anything.
Exactly. Well, and I always like to say it's a puzzle, and everybody's puzzle is different. It's our job as a physical therapist to kind of be the investigator of trying to figure out what that is. And, it's constant assessment, even though the initial visit is our quote unquote evaluation, but we're evaluating every session.
Exactly.
You come back and you tell me, okay, hey, I had trouble with, putting my plates up into my cupboard where, before I had trouble putting it just onto the counter. And so those are the things where we start to problem solve.
That's that puzzle.
Exactly. And that's where, where we've got our education and we understand, those pieces and it has to be a team effort because, I can give you exercises, packets of exercises, and you could go home and do them and it may or may not fix the problem. But it's the feedback that you give me or my therapist that we then, okay, let's try this. Then, it's a constant assessment of trying to figure out, well, okay, so we changed this and this, now this got easier. This activity got easier. Okay, now we changed this. Okay, this got better. Oh, now this time it made it worse. Well, okay, so we have to problem solve that. Exactly. And everybody has got a different puzzle because people have had falls, they've had surgeries, they've had fractures, they've had whatever. Everybody's different. There is no textbook, and a therapist coming out of school has great textbook knowledge, but I like to say they don't have that real world knowledge and figuring out, what's going on there with the individual person. And that's why it has to be focused,
Right.
Pardon my pun, but focused
Yeah,
on
absolutely.
the patient, each individual patient. And that's why I set out to do what I've done.
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard some statistics somewhere, and I don't know if it's true or not, but it sure rings true to this conversation. A typical aircraft traveling from point A to point B is off course 80% of the time. Off course 80% of the time. And that's why, maybe artificial intelligence will eventually take over. But for right now, you need that pilot there to make those little changes in
Exactly.
direction, a little turn to the right because the wind's blowing in a different way, a little duck under the bad storm or above or whatever the case may be, to get you to where you need to be.
Yeah.
And when it's all about checking the boxes and pre-programmed algorithms and protocols, and unfortunately, that's in so much of healthcare, not just in physical therapy, not just in chiropractic, but in life and death emergency medicine, they are following an algorithm
Right.
way too much of the time.
Yeah. And some of it is the insurance models, that they've got us seeing, not so much for physical therapy, but, MDs are seeing patients every 5 minutes, Like I went to talk with an orthopedic surgeon a while back and I was speaking with the office manager. I said, has he got a minute to say hello? And she's like, no, he's got 121 patients today. And I'm thinking to myself, how in the heck can you see 121 patients, even in a 10-hour day? That's one every 5 minutes.
Right.
And give good quality care. I mean, it's funny because it really bothers me. We always talk about quality care and evidence-based care, yet you could say it, but a lot of times people aren't giving it. They're still just phoning it in and getting it in and get the one out and the next one in, and that's what we're really trying to avoid over at Focus. And I think that's coming to fruition. I'm super excited. I'm gonna gloat a little bit, but I just, I've been here in Santa Clarita treating for 4 years now, just under 4 years. And I just got voted top 3 physical therapists in Santa Clarita. So that's great,
That's
exciting.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But, it's funny because this one, like a lot of them, you get voted by, the public. This one, they actually, I don't know how they come up with it because it's not open to voting. They're not asking for any advertising or anything like that. But it got awarded based on my experience and the feedback from reviews and stuff like that, which I thought is pretty cool. So I'm excited to accept that award. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, that is nice.
Yeah.
It's but that's not why you do it.
Right. Exactly. No. But it gives me feedback that says, okay, this vision that I have for Focus to help our community. I lived here for 16 years, but I only have worked here for the last 4. I wanted to. That's why I opened up Focus here locally rather than being up in the Antelope Valley where I was before. I wanted to be able to get back to my community. And so I'm getting to do that now. And it's been a lot of fun. I'm getting to do stuff like this where I'm on the radio and talking to more people and getting the word out of like, hey, let's help everybody out and let's get them back to doing what they want to do. So it's a lot of fun.
Okay, so I believe this is the most important conversation. What do we do to make a difference? Because I think everybody has a slightly different take on the healthcare industry after these past few years.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to say that it's a good one, but a lot of people feel disenfranchised over these past 2 years. Like, how can this be right for everyone?
Yeah.
And how is this affecting my access? If nothing else, my access to my doctor for what I want to go there for has been said, no, can't do that now.
Yeah.
Gotta wait indefinitely to do that now. So I believe that this is where an opportunity for people like us to really step up and fill that gap.
Yeah.
Fill that gap. Give people an option to self-empowerment in healthcare, which has almost been, a bad word.
Right. I know what you mean.
I go to these places and it's all like, I don't even know. But anyway, so what, besides taking care of the person the way that they should be taken care of, what sets Focus specifically aside from those other 3 top PTs on that list?
Ooh, that's a good question. Boy, that's a really good question. I think, what sets Focus apart the most is that we have some of the best cutting edge technology. We're able to tap into the nervous system with the newbie and identify the problem with 100% accuracy. That alone has been a game changer for Focus, for me as a treating therapist as well, that I can literally map somebody's skin and their nervous system and figure out where the problem is on the first visit. And sometimes it doesn't correlate with where the pain is, which to me is great because I've always felt like as a therapist, we don't want to chase the pain. But having a tool that's only been around for about 5 years now, that allows us to identify that problem, gets to that problem quicker and gets people recovering quicker, which I think is probably our biggest game changer and what has separated us into the top 3 practices in Santa Clarita.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have a physical therapist come in twice a week.
Mm-hmm. For home health.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and they both, one's a man and one's a woman.
Yeah.
Boy, do they put me through it. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Oh, I was exhausted yesterday.
Yeah.
When she came, because I was standing up at the kitchen counter, and I mean doing all kinds of things, going down and coming up, going down and coming up. Legs out here, legs out here, legs up here. Oh God,
working all your
exhausted.
Muscles. Yeah, working all your muscles.
Every single one of them.
Yep, absolutely.
And then the other therapist worked with me with my arms and my top part of my body. So I get the whole thing.
The whole bit. Yep.
The whole bit.
So they're getting you strong enough so that you can come out and go to a clinic like Focus where you can see.
That's what the goal is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And home health, which is what you're getting, is a crucial part because when somebody's had a surgery or they've had an illness or a fall or whatever, they need that stepping stone to get them back so that they can get out in the community and do stuff.
Well, it's like my kids say, "Mom, use your walker. Use your walker."
Yep.
I can do it.
Yep.
But when I try to do it, I'm thinking, whoa, wait a minute. They're right. Use the walker.
Yep.
Use it until you don't have to use it anymore. You could do without it. And I'm getting there.
That's right. Well, that's why you're doing all those exercises.
Yeah,
You're getting stronger and
I'm
get your balance
getting there.
better.
Because my balance is better. She had me standing there with my arms down beside me. and standing on one leg.
Yeah.
She said, you can do it for 1 minute to begin with.
Yep.
And then I had to change to the other leg, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to fall. No, you're not, Barbara. You're not going to fall.
Right.
Then she had me do it for 2 minutes, and then 3 minutes.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah, that really is. Because there's an important new study out that 30 seconds is the key determining factor. If you can stand on one foot for 30 seconds, it decreases your risk of dying in the next 10 years by 50%.
Really?
Yep.
Well, I don't plan to go anywhere in the next 10 years, believe me. No, I plan to live to 100.
Okay, Adam, can you come back after the break?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll be back in just a moment. Some words from our sponsors on the Senior Hour, KHTS 98.1 FM, AM 1220, hometownstation.com.
Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Thomas Polucki, on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220, KHTS. And we're speaking with Adam Lowery from Focus Physical Therapy. And what are we wrapping up with?
Well, right before we were talking about a piece of equipment that I use that kind of separates us called the newbie. And so, we've talked about it on here before, but I just always like to kind of reiterate, that it's a newer technology. It's been around for about 5 years. And we use it mainly to map the nervous system. So we literally take a wet sponge, put it on your skin, and we drag it around wherever the area of pain is, and we kind of break the body into upper and lower half. And so we map, and wherever your brain is sending a signal, when we get over that with a sponge, the intensity increases because it's duplicating the signal. And that's how we know where your brain is sending the signal that's causing the problem. And that has been the game changer that really allows us to find the problem. And then once we've found those spots, so we usually put 2 to 4 pads on you that after we've mapped those spots, and then we go through movement patterns. So if I've got, somebody who wants to be able to play golf and they can't swing their club because it's bothering them, we might go through the golf swing with the electricity and the pads on to help the brain re-educate, because the brain is what's protecting and causing the problem. Even though it feels like pain, the brain is actually what is doing that. And so it's a lot of fun, because that's where patients coming in and telling us what they're having trouble with. Is it trouble with their tennis swing, or is it trouble walking around the block, or is it trouble reaching up into a cupboard? Once we map the system and figure out where the problem is, then we go through those movement patterns. So sometimes I literally just have somebody reaching up with their arm, for a few minutes, and all of a sudden the pain starts to dissipate and go away, because the brain says, oh, this is safe, I can do this. And it re-educates the brain that we can do those movement patterns. And that's how we can get those quick changes and corrections in the movements. And then all of a sudden you take the electricity out of the equation and have them redo the movement, and the pain is gone again. So it's really, really a lot of fun, and it's been very successful, and that's been probably our biggest game changer for Focus.
Nice.
Well, how did you come across this machine?
So I hired a business coach. I was a part owner of my own clinic in Antelope Valley for 16 years, but I only dealt with I was more like the director. And so I hired a business coach who, the director of physical therapy for NewFit, which is the company that makes Newbie, hired the same business coach. And so my business coach introduced us and said, you got to check this out. This is something like I've never seen before. And so I flew to Tampa back in April of 2019. I trained with, his name's Jason Waz, director of PT for NewFit, for 4 days, and was sold. When I saw the changes that it was making with patients in his clinic, it just was an absolute game changer.
It was the thing to do.
Yep. And then I actually flew in September of that same year and trained with, his name is Garrett Salpeter. He's the designer owner of NewFit, and trained with him for 4 days and learned his concepts, and then put the two together. And so I've been treating with it ever since. I have 5 newbies now.
5?
5 newbies, yep.
Whoa.
Yeah. So they're going all day long.
Wow, that's terrific. Absolutely terrific.
Absolutely.
And it does the job.
It has helped so many people, which is a lot of fun. And especially it's interesting, don't get me wrong, I like an easy ankle sprain or something like that, but we've gotten a lot of patients that have struck out elsewhere in the healthcare, system, if you will. And and come in because somebody has told them they've had success with it. And so that's been a lot of fun because then, I'm getting to problem solve some of those problems that couldn't be solved. And we've been able to solve some of them. So it's a lot of fun, and especially like, I have one person that had been dealing with an out of work for 5 years and now they're back to working again. And they couldn't do it. Everything they tried, they had hundreds of injections and different things and nothing was helping, but the newbie helped them. So that was really a lot of fun.
There's nothing worse than having injections of medication. Really,
And it didn't fix the problem.
To me, it's a losing battle. I'm convinced.
So on that note,
Yes.
how do people get in touch with you, Adam?
So we are located at 25050 Peachland Avenue, Suite 205. We're right above Valencia Pharmacy, just off of Lyons. Our website is www.focusphysicaltherapyscv.com, and our phone number is 661-255-4205.
255-4205.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Adam Lowery, Focus Physical Therapy. You've been listening to the Senior Hour, KHTS, FM 98.1, AM 1220, hometownstation.com. We're sponsored by IMAC Med Spa, Providence Holy Cross, and Comfort Keepers. Now go out and enhance your quality of life.